We'll start at Tanur Rabbanan on Nun Vav Amud Aleph, right?
Yeah.
And it's 5 lines up from the wide lines towards the bottom. 5 lines up from the wide lines. Okay. Thank Hashem that you're able to learn Torah every day. It's supposed of our learning, we should have basic Mikdash immediately. Mashiach. Learning Lul Nishmas, the tunnels of Mitzian, and for Shlema for everyone that needs, and for Eretz Yisrael and the hostages. Okay, Tanur Rabbanan. Start in a brisa. Ish. Let's go back a drop. What's the full pasuk? What do you have over there? I have it over here. Ish ish ki kalal kavrash. Talking about cursing, the Megadeth. Yeah? Ish ish. It actually says a double ish. Ish ish. It says this. Ma tamalemer ish ish. Why does it say any man? Could it just say a man that? It's not to say any man that. Same thing. It's coming to include the Rabbi says it's coming to tell us, and this is where we introduce the concept of Sheva Mitzvahs into this, the next 3 pages of Sanhedrin. It's going to be about the Sheva Mitzvahs. But first, we introduce it with Birkas Hashem, because it says in the pasuk Ish Ish, any man that's coming to tell us that that extra Ish is coming to include a non-Jew as well, has the same prohibition, not the curse Hashem. However, their punishment is Sayef, is the sword. Now Rashi brings, because in Bereshis, when it talks about, no, it's not Bereshis, it's in Parshas Noach, it talks about if someone would kill another man, it says, Dama yishafech, spill his blood. Spill his blood would be the punishment of Sayef, of the sword. The other ones don't spill the blood. The other ones stoning or burning or chenek, doesn't spill the blood. So because it uses that pasuk before Matan Torah on the punishment to a murderer, it says Dami Yeshafech. So we learn that all of them Shekal Misa Amura Ben Bnei Noach and Al B'Sayah. All punishments of a Ben Noach is always going to be by the sword. Gemara says, this is where you're going to learn that you can't curse Hashem. The way the Gemara says is bless Hashem, which is a euphemistic way of that you can't curse Hashem. Mehasam nafka, we learn it from another pasuk. Hashem Zubirkus Hashem. Okay, the full pasuk we're gonna get when we turn the page. Rabbi Yochanan is going to teach us some interesting things, but the full pasuk is V'yitzav Hashem Elokim ala Adam Leimer Mikol Eitzagan Nachal Teichel. Each word of that pasuk is going to tell me one of the Sheva mitzvahs. But we start off with not to curse Hashem. It's from the word Hashem. V'yitzav Hashem. The word Hashem, that teaches me that. Here you're telling me it's from Ish Ish by the Jew. And on the next page, we're going to learn differently. So the Gemara is challenging it. It says, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. Yitzchak Nafcha says, what we're doing by the Ish Ish is we're coming to include not just if someone curses the name of Hashem, the Yud Kei Vav Kei, the Tetragrammaton. Not only that, but even if he uses any other nickname for Hashem. Now, when we say over here nickname, we're not referring to what we learned yesterday of Yaka Yosias. We're not referring to a nickname that we've made up because you don't want to say Hashem's name. We're talking about the other secondary names of Hashem, the Elikim and the Kel and the Shakai and the Tzvakais and all those other names that we're not allowed to write. And if we do, we're not allowed to say them. If we do, it becomes Shemus and all of those, all the good stuff. So if someone uses one of those names, he also has the same prohibition. Now, this is just like Reb Meir. It's not really just like Reb Meir. It's an extension of Reb Meir, because Reb Meir was talking about a Jew. We're taking Ish Ish to include it to a non-Jew as well. The Tanya was taught in a brisa, Ish Ish ki yakala lekavan asachetei. A man will curse his God, and he will carry his sin. It means he'll be guilty. Ma Talmud Laimar, why does it have to say this? It already says. Someone that's Noikiv, which we learned yesterday, a whole thing about Noikiv, which means basically to curse. If the name of Hashem, he gets put to death. Why do you have to tell me again that he's going to be guilty? Because I could have thought, this is Reb Meir talking, I could have thought that it would only be the Tetragrammaton. The special name of Hashem, the Yud Kevavke. Minayin l'Rabbis Kol HaKinoim. How do we know that all the other nicknames of Hashem, or secondary names rather, are also under the same prohibition? Because it uses over there Likav is God. It doesn't use the name Hashem in that pasuk. So then it's coming to teach me that the same law would apply to the other names of Hashem. Now that's Divrei Reb Meir. That's the words of Reb Meir. And based on that, we're going to have an extension to the non-Jews as well, because it says ish, ish. So why do we have a source by Yitzav Hashem? That's only telling me the name of Hashem itself. How would we know other kinuyim? That we're going to get from that's from the ish, ish. We're going to learn it from a Jew. From a Jew is not allowed to, so to a non. Chacham say no. They argue with Reb Meir. If he uses the tetragrammaton, 4 letters, Yud Ke Vav Ke, that's when he's going to have the death penalty. That's only a prohibition, but it's not a punishment. It's not a death penalty. Malchus, I don't know. So they argue on this. Now, this way of understanding the machlekes between Reb Meir and the Chachamim, that it's talking about whether a Jew or non-Jew, the same thing. That's Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha's explanation of this, because he said that it's according to Reb Meir. Now, according to Reb Miyasha, it could also fit according to the Chachamim, because he learns the machlekes slightly different with one variation. The machlekes Reb Meir and the Chachamim, as we'll see. You with me?
Yeah, sure you are. But I'm not with you anyway. This is on Shiva. How is this?
One of the Sheva mitzvahs would be not to curse Hashem. And now we're learning the source for that.
Right.
He argues with Rabbi Yasha. He says Rabbi Yasha goes straight for the Ben Noach. The Ben Noach versus Hashem with the nickname, not with the Shem HaMiyuchad, right? Not with the Tetragrammaton. L'Rabbanan Chayiv, even according to the Rabbanan Chayiv, that whole machlekes between Reb Meir and the Chachamim, if there's a difference between the Tetragrammaton and the other names, that's only regarding a Jew. When it comes to a non-Jew, we're stricter. My timer. When we said over there, which pasuk was Keger Kezrach? Do you have it in your thing? When it says Yishish Ki Kal Alakaf, is it in what source do they have? Leviticus 24. Yeah. Let me just see on the side. Yeah, Damakar Keger Ezrach is number 40. Leviticus 24:16. Noikev Shem Hashem. Let's take a look at the full pasuk. Yeah, it doesn't bring it on the side. Strange, no? Oh no, it does. It does. It's the first one. Noikev Shem Hashem Ma'isimas Ragam Yugamu Vaikol Ha'ida Keger Ezrach V'Nakvi Shem Yumas. Someone that curses Hashem, he's put to death. He's stoned. Stoned by the whole entire congregation. Ger Ke'ezrach. Ger Ke'ezrach means like a convert or a native. It means someone Jewish. This halacha is only someone that curses the name of Hashem. Is that limitation that it needs to be the name of Hashem is only by a ger and ezrach. So the ger and ezrach is limiting it. That the limitation is only limited to a native to a Jew. It goes like this. No, I'm holding on 56A. And what is it? And towards the bottom. Coming to tell us that the limitation is only on a Jew, that it needs to be the name of Hashem. But if it's a non-Jew, then any name of Hashem would be the same, the same halacha. Reb Meir didn't need the Ger Be'ezrach to limit anything, because he learned that everything applies to the Jew, and we do ish and it applies to the non-Jew. So what limitation is he getting from Ger Be'ezrach that this law applies to the Jew? Because how is that restricting this? This Haiki Ger Be'ezrach ma'yavid like. Meir answers Ger Be'ezrach b'skila. If it's a Jew, a native or a convert, then they get stoned. Like Ovid Kechavim b'sayif. But if it's a non-Jew, then it gets killed by the sword. So it's limiting it in a different way in the type of punishment. I could have thought, I could have thought, since it says ish, any man, including a non-Jew, could have thought that therefore the same punishment should apply. Kamash Malan, that you included it for the same law, but the punishment is still different. That's what you learn from Keger Kes. Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha liba derabanan, and according to Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, that said that according to the sages, there is no law by the non-Jew that about the kinuyim. He curses Hashem with the kinuyim. What does he do with this? Right? There's no. He can't say that it's coming to include kinuyim because he holds that that's not true. He can't say that it's coming to say a different punishment on the non-Jew because they don't get punished for kinuyim. Ger Be'ezrach could be on shame b'shame. Ger Be'ezrach has to curse Hashem in order to get this punishment. He has to curse Hashem with the name of Hashem, like we said, Yaka Yoisi Es Yoisi. He doesn't need that restriction on how it needs to. He doesn't need that qualification of how this prohibition is performed. Even if he does it without Hashem is cursing Hashem. Even if he doesn't have that whole elaboration, it's still cursing Hashem. Ish lamali. What does he need? Ish if he doesn't use, he's not learning the non-Jews into this. So he says that's a typical language, and we don't have to learn from that. Yeah, that's it's machlaikas. Sounds like Rabbi Yishmael's view, and we'll say that Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, according to the Rabbanan, is following that. The Rabbanan, according to Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, is following that. Okay, ready, set, go. This is the big sugi here. Sheva mitzvahs. Yeah. At the end of the Rebbe's Sichas, like the last years, the Rebbe was heavily talking about Sheva mitzvahs, and people thought that there was going to be a new mitzvah, new campaign, Sheva mitzvahs campaign. Now it didn't really take off, but we thought that's where we were headed. It exists to a certain level, a certain extent.
But did schools like adopt this idea of like moments of silence almost?
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, the Rebbe felt that the non-Jews were in America were not religious enough. There was a time when the non-Jews were too religious, and then it became very anti-Semitic. But in America, they were not religious enough. They needed to have the balance. They had no fear of God. Because of the public schools, there was no, because of the church and state, the teachers felt they couldn't teach ethics. So that's not a science or a math or what schools were supposed to be doing was not. They weren't getting anything.
Hours.
Right.
Reading, writing, and religion.
Yeah. The entire world has 7 laws. We call it Bnei Noach, but it's referring to the whole world because after the flood, it was just Bnei Noach left, right? So we started with Noach. Dinim. Okay, let's go through. Dinim is the first one. Judgments. They have to set up a system of judgments of courts. Rikas Hashem. They can't curse Hashem. That's number 2. Avodah Zarah. They can't worship idols. Gilei Arayos. They can't commit adultery or any other forbidden relations. Yeah, you're gonna get it. You'll see. See, that's what this the next 3 pages is going to be doing. It's bringing sources for this. Shvichas damim. They can't murder. Gezel. They can't steal. And also they can't eat a limb off a living animal. They can't. You have to wait for the animal to die. They can't just, back then they didn't have refrigeration, so they don't want to kill the whole animal. They only wanted one leg, right? So they would just cut off a leg, eat it, and then they would take the next leg the next day. So that wasn't allowed. That's Aver Menachai. Rabbi Hananya ben Gamliel. Af aladam minachai. Not only a limb from a living animal, but you can't even have blood from a living animal if they would be eating blood or drinking blood. Rab Chidkai af alasiris. Yeah. They were allowed to eat from a dead animal, the blood. A Jew is not supposed to have blood, but a non-Jew is allowed to have blood, just not from a living animal. Not while it's alive.
It tells it straight out in Noach, though, not to have blood.
Yeah, benafshi. We'll see that it's referring to damai benafshi. That means the basar damai benafshi, that the flesh, while it has the blood. We're going to learn that it's referring to that the soul, which is the blood, we should not eat while the soul is still there. Because you can't eat it while it's alive. That's the way the Gemara that pasuk.
What's the pasuk?
Ach basar damay benafshay loisechelo. No. Maybe it's a battle march. No, I'm kidding. Reb Chidka says that you can't do to castrate an animal is also prohibited, or not an animal, a human. See, I'm not sure. Does it say an animal or a human?
Animal. Person or animal?
Person or animal. It says both. Wow, this would limit. This would limit the whole veterinarian business. It wouldn't be allowed. I understand it wasn't allowed.
The way people get around it is dubious. It's like the analysis of Miras Lanakri. To what extent? That's the analogy that's used.
Yeah, but if a non-Jew is prohibited, then you lose the whole Nachri part. I understand the Jew can't do it; can't become a veterinarian.
I mean, you could go to a vet and not this just for castration.
Yeah, but that's one of the main things that they do is they neuter the.
People transfer ownership to the vet.
But if the vet is not allowed to do it, even if he's not Jewish, is there lifnei iver when you cause a non-Jew to violate one of his laws? I bet there is. I mean, you got to look. These are things that the place can probably play with, Okay.
Oh, the whole industry of cattle. If you have a female cow, a male cow, you castrate it so it doesn't become a bull, it becomes meat.
Right.
But that's the whole industry.
Right.
Everything that's, even if it's kosher meat.
We got to figure this out.
Okay.
Reb Shimon says also magic is prohibited. Non-Jews can't do magic. Yeah, how do we do magic shows? We bring because we say it's not real magic. But according to the Rambam, that holds that there's no such thing as magic anyway. So what is the Torah prohibiting? The Torah is only prohibiting the, what's it called? Something of hand? Sleight of hand. The Torah is only for, so according to the Rambam, magic shows would also be prohibited. Anyway, we usually in the camps, and they always bring a magician. They obviously don't hold to the Rambam. Rabbi Yossi says, anything that it says in that verse about the verse of Kishuv, which over there it says, all of those things, and all those things, it all applies to the non-Jew as well. Okay. We've just extended the Sheva Mitzvahs, by the way, to about 10 or 20 right now, depending on how you want to count Kishuv and all of those other things. So all of these are, it says, basically in this pasuk it says that you should not do any of these magicians, these magic type things, speaking to the dead and signs and all these things, because Hashem chased out, because of this Hashem chased out those other nations. Now, why is Hashem chasing out those nations? Obviously, because it was prohibited. He wouldn't punish them if it wasn't prohibited, if they were allowed to do it. It must be that the prohibition applies to them as well. Very interesting, right? Obviously, they were warned. It must be that they weren't allowed to do it. Now, kalayim is forbidden mixtures of. Let's take a look. The Gemara is going to say, they're actually allowed to wear shatnez, but Lizraya kalayim, and also to plant. The only thing that they're prohibited to do is they can't crossbreed animals or graft trees. That's prohibited for a non-Jew, according to this opinion. It looks like the Rambam's Pascal's like this. Now we get to the source for all of this. Yes, are there psukim for this, or is this just?
I didn't know that the Shavuot was enough.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to, if you would set up a yeshiva for Bnei Noach, they would be studying this these few dafim over here. So it would be. Okay, how do you know this? I'm Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Damar Kra." It says in the pasuk, "V'yitzav Hashem Elikim al Adam." Hashem Elikim commanded man, Leimar saying, "Mikol eitz hagan achal teichel." From all the trees in the garden, you should surely eat. So let's take a look, one word at a time. V'yitzav, he commanded. Elu hadinim. That means he told him that he needs to have courts. We have a source for this. Another pasuk, it says, because I know about Avraham Avinu, because he would command his sons after him to know the way of Hashem, and to do kindness and judgment. Judgment. Okay, and it says the word yitzava. So it's the word tzav is associated with judgment. Hashem, right? Hashem commanded. Hashem. This means that you can't curse Hashem's name. It says someone that curses Hashem is put to death. So we associate the word Hashem with the other pasuk that has the prohibition to curse Hashem. Elikim, when it says Hashem Elikim, right? Commanded. This is referring to that they cannot worship idols. Can't have other gods. Al ha'adam, regarding man. This is referring to the death penalty. As it says, that someone that spills the blood of man, so it uses the word Adam. Leimar, to say, now this is very interesting, Zugile Arayas is referring to adultery. How does Leimar have anything to do with adultery? We quote this pasuk in Yirmiyah. Leimar hein yishlach yeshasirste v'holcha mi'ite v'hitzel yeshachet, saying, then as the extra word in that pasuk, the word is saying. Well, if a man sends away his wife and she goes to marry another man, and then is the man allowed to take him back, etc., and all the crimes that you committed and all of this. Anyway, the term leimar is also a term that's used when someone does a kedushin on a yibam. It's called maimer. Maimer is a rabbinic betrothal to the yavama. Before he actually lives with her, he gives her this kedushin, which it's not required kedushin. It's called maimer, but it does as it designates one of the brothers to the there's several brothers. He does a maimer. Well, we see that it's associated with this relationship, lamer. So that's referring to a forbidden relation. Mikol Eitzagan, from all the trees of the garden, Zugezel is coming to teach us you're only allowed to eat the trees from the garden because we permitted it, but otherwise you can't take it. If it wasn't permitted, then you can't take it. Achal teichel, you should surely eat. that means you should eat something that's already food. Right? Food you should eat. We're saying achal is I'm not sure exactly how it's learning it, but anyway. Is it saying achal teichal, that you should, is the teichal saying that it needs to be prepared food, or is it the achal that means that it needs to be prepared food? I don't have the commentaries here. Okay, whatever the case is, we learned from there that it has to be already slaughtered, or dead. It's a non-Jew. It doesn't have to be slaughtered. Kiyasa Rabbi Yitzchak, when Rabbi Yitzchak came, Tani Yepcha, he learned this verse. Is teaching me slightly different, but it's the same list of laws, right? Same list of laws, but he learns from different words, different things. He learns Vayitzav. We learned Vayitzav was referring to judgment. He says Vayitzav zu avedus kechavim. That's idolatry, not to worship idols. Elikim, when it says Elikim, which we learned meant idols, he says
that uses those interchangeably.
Zudinim, yeah. Avedus kechavim or avedus zar. Avedus kechavim means worship of stars. Avedus zar means a foreign worship. Elikim is dinim. Okay, the Gemara says, Bishlai Elikim Zudinim. We learned Elikim for Avodah Zarah. Rabbi Yitzchak teaches it different. Bishlai Elikim Zudinim L'Tziv Balabais Elikim. We know in the Torah we have other places that he says is brought, the watchman is brought to court, and it uses the term for court for the judges. It says the word Elikim. Elikim means judgment. Okay, that's an easy one. But Ela Vayitzav Zu Avodah Zarah. How do you get that? Vayitzav is referring to idolatry. My mashma. Rav Chisda Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi. It's a machlekes. Chadam, one of them says, that they strayed from the path that I commanded them. Asalahem, they have made for themselves, what do they make? The golden calf. Chadam, another one says, Ashik Ephraim. Ephraim is oppressed. Ratzatz Mishpat. He is smashed due to judgment of Hashem. Because he's followed after the commands of the idols, of the prophets of the idols. Which now over here, the word tzav, he followed after tzav, which means he followed the idols. Tzav means idolatry. My benaya, what's the difference between Rab Chisda and Rab Yitzchak bar Avdimi, that they're learning it from two different sources? Well, this is a fine point between these two opinions. If a non-Jew made an idol, but he didn't bow down to it, he just manufactures. He doesn't worship them, he just makes them. Also, according to the one that says that they have made the golden calf, it doesn't say that they worshipped it, it only says that they made it. See, that's already the problem. Just to make it, you can't manufacture. But according to the other opinion that says that he follows after the tzav, the command of the prophets of the idols, that means that they worship. You have to follow after and worship. That would be the prohibition. So here it comes out that if a non-Jew makes an idol, would he be put to death? Amar Rava. Rava says, 1 second. Does anyone hold that just by manufacturing idols, it's going to be put to death by a non-Jew? But Tanya, we have a brisa. When it comes to a non-Jew, or not actually, I think what it means is when it comes to idolatry, dvarim shebein bezdin shel Yisrael memisam alayim ben nayach muzra alayim. Yeah, that's a little confusing. Ba'akim must mean idolatry, not non-Jews. Okay, anything that a Jewish court would execute, that's the word. Then the non-Jew is also warned about that. Is also prohibited. If the Jewish court would not execute, so then the non-Jew would not be prohibited. Now, what is this coming to tell me? It says, must be just like a Jew that makes an idol is not put to death. If he manufactures an idol, he didn't worship it. He just he makes it, right? It's this whole old question about if you're allowed to be in the Salem business, right? So, but it's not a death penalty, that's for sure. So therefore, the non-Jews should not be prohibited either. That's what it seems to be telling me. Amar Papa, Papa says, like, that's not what it's telling you. It's telling mutagifa finishak. That phrase over there, where if there's a death penalty, if you execute by the court, then if it's not executed by the court, then the non-Jew is not prohibited. That's referring to if someone, instead of worshiping the idols, he hugs and kisses the idol. Yeah. Gifa Venishik Demai, I had a story, one of these books I had to read in school. It was like this little short stories. It was a story about this guy that, this boy, that he kissed a ice statue that he liked. We don't have ice statues in Florida, but his tongue got stuck, and he went on the bus, and they had to jump into the lake afterwards to get it off, and whatever. Anyway, it's describing his embarrassment on the bus. Like, he can't. Anyway, so this person, if he kisses an idol, but the Gemara says, 1 second. Even nishik demai. 1 second. What exactly is happening here? If that's the way that he serves the idol, that he hugs and kisses it, that that's what part of the service. So then barkatolo, then that's considered worshiping. You see, every idol, there's basic things of bowing down and offering, giving offerings that's prohibited to any idol. It doesn't matter what it is. But then every idol has its own like mishagas, like the way they serve it. This one, they do a dance. That one, they go to the bathroom in front of. This one, they throw a rock at it. There's all different types of ways that they worship it. So each unique one is also prohibited. If the way of worshiping this idol would be to hug and kiss, then that would be a death penalty. Elam mutesh like Kedarka must be saying that this is not the way that it's worshipped. Okay. Basically, what we're left with is that we don't have any proof that it's permissible to make for a non-Jew to make an idol. Dinim, the Gemara now discusses the judgment. The non-Jews are commanded that they have to set up, in surprise, the Gemara is asking, that they have to set up court systems. But we have a brisa. There were 10 mitzvahs that the Jewish people were commanded before they reached the Mount Sinai, in the place called Mara, where they had the water. Water was bitter, and Sheva Shekibla. Really? There's filters. Sheva Shekibla Alayim Einayach, Ve'sifa Alayim Dinim. Shabbos V'Kibbut Avein. 7. What mitzvahs did they have before the giving of the Torah? The 7 Noachide laws, plus 3 more. What are those 3? Judgment, Shabbos, and Kibbut Avein. 1 second. If you say plus 3 more, and one of those 3 is judgment, that means that judgment is not part of the first 7. Now the Gemara goes through, how do we know that these were added laws? Dinim diksiv, sham sam loy chayku mishpat. Over there, he gave them the laws. Shabbos v'kibbut aveim diksiv kasher tzivcha Hashem alekecha. As Hashem your God commanded you. It says in the 10 Commandments, it says, as Hashem your God commanded you. Now, if that's, what do you mean he commanded you? It means he commanded you prior. Where was that? In Mara. So by those 2 laws, it says, as Hashem commanded you, that means Shabbos and kibbut aveim, you were commanded before him. Whatever the case is.
What does Mara refer to?
Mara is a location where the Jewish people were before they came to Mount Sinai. And over there, they needed water, and the water was bitter, and they threw something in the water. What happened? They threw something in. The professor says they threw moringa seeds, and then it filtered it. But they had to sweeten the water there.
So the Gemara is saying they had these 10, and then they got 10 more, or they were replaced at Har Sinai?
That's an interesting question. Is it? Let's assume that it was all replaced, because unless you want to consider that Mara was the beginning of the process of the giving of the Torah. Otherwise, the Rambam would tell us that you can't have any. We don't follow any laws before the giving of the Torah. You know, the Rambam in Chulin, in Pirshim Mishnayos.
Yeah, this number 7, is it like the number 613? In that, we have the number, but the components, people have different opinions about the components. Is 7 the same way?
Yeah.
So the question is solving for the 7.
Yeah. So far, we had one list of 7,
Right.
and then we had some other opinions that are tacking on another one. So they're actually adjusting the 7 to 8, 9, 10, 11.
So
now
they
we're
have
going
to take something off, though.
not necessarily, but there is an original 7, and then they're adding on some. But soon the Gemara is going to say, no, I have a different 7. Yeah. Yeah, the Gemara doesn't give us that atomic theory of the 7. Anyway, Rav Yehuda says, as you were commanded in Mara. Okay, so whatever the case is, the question here is that obviously dinim is something that was added later, and it's not from the original 7. What we mean is, it's not that setting up courts is not from the original 7. Setting up courts was from the original 7. So what does it mean, dinim plus dinim? That's referring to special halachas that the Jewish court has. First of all, that when it comes to capital punishment, you need an Eidah. You need an Eidah of 10 people that are acquitting and 10 people that are condemning, and then you need another to make it even. So you need 23 judges. Plus, you need proper laws of witnesses. And then you need also, every witness also needs to, the witnesses need to warn the person beforehand. So there's added halachas that are applied to Jewish courts, but that was added before. But there was also the dinim that were from the 7 early ones. That's the answer. Well, if that's the case, what do you mean they added on to them judgment? It's not added on to judgment. It's added on laws about judgment. It's referring to the original laws of judgment would mean that if someone causes harm to the other person, then he has to, retribution, he has to pay that back, restitution. He has to pay back whatever was lost. However, the knesses, penalties and fines, that applies even when there's no loss. That's added to the Jewish laws, but that's not on the original laws of the 7 laws. It should have been that they added into the laws, not judgment. What it means is that the Jews were commanded that they have to set up courts in every place, in every location. The non-Jews needed one court in one, in the capital city. Gemara says, really? The non-Jews only need one court in a capital city somewhere? In every province, in every city. The non-Jews also have to do that. Set up courts in every place. Rava says, this Brisa that told us that there's 10 laws that were given to us in Mara, 7 plus another 3, including judgment. So that is the Tana Debei Menashe, because they don't have the 7 that we have. They have the Mapik Dach Ba'ayel Sach. This is a Rashi Tevis. Dach stands for Dinim and Birkas Hashem, and the Ayel, and instead they put in Sach, which is Sirus and Kalayim, castration and the mixed and the mixing crossbreeding. So in other words, there's a machlekes here what the original 7 are, but if you take out 2 of them, including the judges, and you'll fill it up with another 2 that were added on to the top of the 7, and then if that's the case, then it's only now we have a different list of 7. That's why the Jewish people will have the judgment, and according to this opinion, but not the non-Jews. The Tana Debei Menashe was taught by this Brisa in the house of Menashe. Sheva mitzvahs estav b'nei Noach. There are 7 Noachide laws, and what are they? Avodah Zarah, not to worship idols. Gilui Arayos, not to commit adultery. Shvichas Dam, not murder. Gezel is thievery or robbing. Aver Menachai. So far, we're so good, right? That's everyone agrees to those. However, he adds in Sirus Vikilayim, castrating animals or humans, and also crossbreeding. Rabbi Yehuda says, Adam Arishan, Adam Rishon was only commanded not to worship idols. Hashem, God commanded man. And what did he command him about? Elikim. He commanded him about himself, about not to worship an idol. Rabbi ben Beseira says also not to curse God. And some say also that Adam Rishon was commanded also on judgment. Who does this following text follow? This that Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rav, I am God, don't curse me. I am God, don't exchange me. I am God, and therefore you should have fear over me. Come on, who did that go? Like Yeshaimrim. That would follow the Yeshaimrim, because the Yeshaimrim say that all three are included in the command to Adam Rishon. How does the Tanna B'Ei Menashe get all of these 7 laws if they take out 2 of them and throw in another 2? So do they learn from Vayitzav? Then they should have dinim as well. If they don't have that pasuk, then how do they have the original ones that they claim they have? It says really they don't have that pasuk. But each one has its independent pasuk. In other words, we had all 7 coming from one pasuk. Hashem commanded regarding man not to eat from any of the trees in the garden. That was the pasuk that gave us all 7. Here we need 7 different psukim. It says before the flood that the earth was corrupt. What does it mean it's corrupt? It was taught in the yeshiva Rabbi Shmuel. That means it must be immorality and idolatry, right? How do we know that it's referring to immoral behaviors? Because the way of all flesh was corrupt. The way of all flesh is referring to relations that aren't acceptable. How do we see that? It says pentashchis, and it's used the word like destruction, lest you become corrupt, and you'll make idols. V'idach, what does the other opinion do with these psukim? He doesn't need these psukim to teach me those laws because we know it from Vayitzav. Just telling us what they were doing wrong. This opinion is saying that it's telling us why they were punished. Obviously, if they were punished, it must have been that they were commanded not to. The other opinion says no, they were commanded not to from a different source. This is just telling us why they got the punishment. When it comes to murder, because it says that anyone that's committed after the flood, it says anyone that kills will get killed. What does the other one do with that pasuk? The Kamagali. It's telling us what type of punishment the person gets, the murderer gets. He gets the sayef, he gets the sword. Gezel, what about thievery? That's the ksiv kier case of nasati lachem eskol. I now allow you to eat everything like the grass of the field. Rab Levi says kier case of like kina, that you can only eat the grass of the field, and you can only eat like the grass of the field, which means things that are hefker, that grow wild, but not you can't take things that belong to people to eat. It means that there's a prohibition against stealing. V'idach, what does the other one do? Wow, the other opinion that learns from Vayitzav. So what do they do with this pasuk? That like the grass of the field is coming to tell us that originally you weren't allowed to eat meat. Before the flood, everyone was vegetarian. They didn't have permission to eat meat. After the flood, it says that now you're allowed to eat everything like the grass of the field. That means everything becomes like vegetables. Even the meat becomes like vegetables. You're allowed to eat meat. Aver Menachai, what's that source? The Ksiv Achbasa Benafshe Damai. Daniel. It says, while the flesh has its soul in it, which is its blood, you shouldn't eat it. Or the Idach, what does the other opinion do? We already know Aver Menachai from which word was it? In the pasuk of Vayitzav. So he says, it's coming to tell us they're allowed to eat a limb of a sheretz. Sheretz is a creeping creature, not a full not a larger animal. In Sirus, what's the source for Sirus? Because it says it commanded that you should increase in the land. That means they should procreate. Obviously, you can't castrate because that would stop them. V'idach, what does the other one do? The bracha b'alma, that's just giving them a blessing that they'll become fruitful and multiply. Kilayim, where do we see that they can't crossbreed? Because it says, the birds according to its type. That means he's going to bring onto the teva, each one according to its type. That means that you're not allowed to crossbreed. V'idach, what does the other opinion do? That's just telling you about companionship. That the birds the animals will like their own type. They don't like it when they're forced with another animal. They want their type to be their companion. And that's not telling you a law that you're not allowed to. Okay, let's leave it over here. I'm Rav Yosef for all this.
Tell you that the son of Zon, who was ordained as a rabbi,
Who's that?